Said Eid Milad, Feliz Navidad, and various other ways of saying Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to you all. I just finished watching the U.S. Open Cricket Tournament, and I'm going to talk about the results, and then I'm going to talk about my general impressions of it overall. So, I'm Ken Lammers. This is Minor League Matters, and let's get cracking. Okay, so I just finished watching the U.S. Open cricket tournament in Florida, and it was fun to watch what I could watch of it because the weather was not cooperative this year. And I want to congratulate the Somerset Cavaliers. I think this is their third year in the championship game, and their second out of those 3 years for winning it, if I understand right. They beat the Atlanta Fire. It was not really a close game. It was pretty lopsided, to be honest with you, to the point that at the end of the match, there were no outs on either batter, and the batter who'd already gotten over 50 was purposely hitting the ball off or arranging so that the other batter could bat and get over 50, right? So that tells you that it wasn't a close match. And so, congratulations to the Atlanta Fire, which ended up in second place and got a $10,000 check. And congratulations to the Somerset Cavaliers, who were first place and got a $50,000 check. I'm not sure that anybody else got money for playing, but, at least those two teams went away with some money, and Atlanta probably paid for its trip and everything. And Somerset, maybe the players made a little bit of money out of this. Now, the other two teams that made it to the Final Four, the playoffs, single elimination, were the Houston Stars, and, they were pretty good. But the team that made it to the final and didn't make it to the final game, made it to the Final Four, didn't make the final game, that everybody, at least the announcers, seemed to believe was going to win the whole thing was Multan Sultan. It is a team out of Pakistan, the Pakistan League, and of course they kept telling us how the Pakistan League is actually going to go back to Pakistan this year. For those of you who don't know, because of security concerns, it's been played outside of the country. I don't know how many years, but it's been played outside of the country. Now they're moving back. So Multan Sultan was apparently the team that they expected. It was coming in from an established league, another country, Pakistani league, a significant league. It was coming in, and it's not like the top team in the league, but it was pretty obvious that they expected this team to just kind of sweep through, and apparently it was doing pretty well at that until it hit Atlanta Fire, and for some reason they were oil and water, and somehow Atlanta, which on paper at least and everything was not nearly as good a team, did Multan Sultan in. Congratulations to Atlanta on that. That was a quality victory, and so they went on to play Somerset Cavaliers, and Somerset was above their level, sadly. And I think that it would have been interesting to see Somerset play Multan Sultan, but you go with who wins the playoff games, and you end up with that final. Anyway, congratulations to them all. It was interesting to watch when I could. Obviously, this is played over a series of days. You have to live your life while this is all going on, and you have to, I would turn on every so often, and a lot of times it was, rain delays. They had bad weather this year. So what's my overall impression of all this? Well, overall impression number one thing I want to say is thank you to MAQ TV. I don't know what MAQ stands for. It's on YouTube, and they were live streaming it. And they were doing a pretty good job of live streaming it. It wasn't up to NBC, CBS, ESPN type levels, right? It wasn't there. They had some sound level problems between different announcers and that sort of thing. Every once in a while, people were complaining about the signal being dropped. I didn't really have that issue, and they had at least two cameras because they had one that was watching the bowling, and then one when the ball got hit that was tracking the ball, and they were able to switch back and forth between them live, which was pretty impressive, and showed some serious coordination. This is a good way to go for cricket. I don't know how many years I have to do this, and I don't expect it to be a money-making endeavor for them, but hopefully, and the guy who's running this appears to be a passion project for him because if you look through their videos, he appears to be at all these, and it's pretty impressive that he's putting his time and money into this. The field itself they played on was in Broward County Stadium, I think Broward Stadium, Broward Central Park, I think is what it's called. It's apparently a pretty good cricket field. So why didn't I go watch any of this in person? I would have liked to. I really would have. Except when I looked on the map, and here's a picture of it, it was a 13-hour drive. This park in Broward County is about as far as you can place something in the United States away from everything else. I guess they could make it harder if they stuck it in Alaska or they stuck it in Hawaii. But other than that, Broward County, Florida is it's way down at the tip of Florida. It was a 13-hour drive. If I'd have left here and driven there, that's 13 hours straight, assuming I don't stop at a hotel, eat, use the facilities, or anything like that, and get gas. It's 13 hours. That's not viable for something like this. I'm not particularly upset that I didn't go this time. I was kind of upset that I couldn't figure out how to do it. But I'm not upset I didn't now because apparently, from what I saw, the weather sucked. But they need to figure out something to do something else than have this down in Florida and right before Christmas. It's a little too close to Christmas, guys. It just really is, which there might be a reason that it's at this time period. It might be cheap to rent the facilities. I don't know what they have to pay to rent whatever facilities they use. From listening to the announcers talk, they used more than just the main field, and they were filming on the main field, so you didn't see all the matches. Apparently, they had indoor matches or matches on turf or something somewhere else, so they had more than one match going at a time at different places. It's kind of a shame you couldn't go and see the others if that was going on, particularly the first day when it was just too bad. The field was unplayable that they had the cameras set up on. So if they were playing elsewhere, right, on turf or somewhere in an enclosed arena or some such thing, and we could have watched that, that would have been great on the first day. They didn't do it. And unfortunately, because of the first day, the bad weather and all that, and by the way, this is not something that necessarily happens every year. I looked at the weather in the last one. I went and pulled up an old video from that. And the last one, it was sunny but windy. This time it was windy, wet, constant rain delays, etc. So, and the first day wasn't played at all because of rain. So it was bad weather, and that's just a chance you take when you schedule something months ahead of time so it can be done. You can't blame the organizers for that. That's just the way it happens. So, the field was not great. The play was okay. Fandom was not there, right? And I'd like to say this is because of the weather, right? If you look here, here's a picture of the seats, right? They're all empty except for a few people that look like they're probably on other teams, right? And these ladies dancing in the front, I don't know what they were doing. It was between the first half and second half of the inning in the final game, and they were just out there freeze form dancing. And they weren't dancing for the crowd. They were clearly dancing for the camera because there wasn't much for a crowd to dance for. And it wasn't like it was coordinated. They were free forming it. Kind of interesting. Anyway, the weather was bad, so which made me kind of happy I didn't make the trip. Not many fans. And I tell you, I looked back on old videos of last year's. There were a few more fans. It looked like they might have had a smattering of up to 80 or 90 fans last year. This year, 20 or 30. If they rose to 50, I didn't see it. And like I said, most of them looked like there were people from other teams who were just sticking around to watch matches. There were some ads around, but I look at this and you realize somebody's got to be putting money into this, right? Because there's no way that supported itself. They had to have people to work the field, equipment to work the field, to keep the field going, between all the matches and fix up all what's been screwed up on it, to, when it rained, to run out and cover the pitch and all that sort of thing. And, people who are keeping the field going, people are, making things work in the, in whatever dugout or changing room or whatever they had, locker room they had. So they had to have people working, and they had to have people to set it up. They had to have people filming, etc., and people announcing. So money was coming from somewhere. And since it didn't look like there was a whole lot of people coming in the front gate, somebody's supporting this, which maybe gives you some hope for a cricket league if you're really interested. And they actually do try to get this cricket league formed in 2021, I think it is, that they're going to try. We'll see about that. So that's kind of my impression of all of it. My recommendations, which should be taken with a huge dollop of salt, not just a grain, a dollop, right? I look at this and there's three problems. One, the Florida problem. Yes, I understand that Broward Central, whatever it's called, is the best cricket field in the U.S. apparently. Although I have, in my comments on previous videos I've done, had people tell me that the one in North Carolina is as good, the field's as good, but of course there's no stands or anything at the one in Carolina. The one in Florida has stands and dressing rooms, so locker rooms, and apparently the one in North Carolina doesn't. I mean, you can get around the locker room thing with with some really good tents, that sort of thing. But you're just, and stands are easy enough to set up, not a huge problem. They're just, unfolding a bunch of aluminum stands, not a huge problem. But this time of year, yeah, it's North Carolina, so it probably gets down to 40 something, but a little too cold really for cricket, to be honest with you. My thoughts are this: what would make this tournament better is you shift the time. December is not really workable. You shift it to either April or May. Probably May works better, because if anybody's seen doggone what happens with baseball when they start in April, they're shoveling fields off so that they can play. You shove April or May, right? Or September. Now, October is probably not a great thing because the World Series and all that's going on, and fans who might be interested in cricket probably in the States are going to be interested in baseball in the World Series. So what you might do is move it to September after most all the minor league baseball is gone. Minor league baseball ends in the U.S. right at the beginning of September, with the exception of the Atlantic League, minor unaffiliated league. Minor leagues end. So let's assume they move it to September. September 3rd through the 7th or something like that, right? Or 15th through the 19th, something like that, whatever dates really work. I haven't looked at a calendar for this. And they set it up. They don't have to play everything in Florida. Now, my understanding is that there's a pretty decent field in Indianapolis. Um, my understanding is that the field in North Carolina is good. And of course, the field in Florida is good. I understand that there are fields that are in Houston or in California are supposed to be good as well. But the problem is there you do start getting too far away, right? Indianapolis and North Carolina, North Carolina in particular, are close enough that you could split, right? You could have feeder games, and you wouldn't have to shut down like you did this year, cut out teams. So you could go in Indianapolis, you could have 12 teams playing. In North Carolina, you could have at that field outside of Raleigh, wherever it is exactly, you could have 12 teams playing. Heck, if you want to do it, you can do it all across the country. 12 teams in Houston, 12 teams at one of the California fields. I think there's 2 fields in California supposed to be good. 12 teams at each of those, right? Or you could do 20 teams at each, or however many you need to do so that you can make it work. And you play the feeder games there. You advertise the heck out of them. You get, fan base. You get people to come who are curious or interested, or just out and out fans their entire life. You get them to come in North Carolina. You get them to come in Indianapolis, Indiana. I'm sure there's a field somewhere in New York, maybe. Do one in New York, get people to come there, do the California, do the Houston thing, and get people to come to these games, right? You could do this and have them all be feeders, and then have them come to Broward County, Broward Central Park for their finale, and have 8 teams make that, and have your playoffs there, right? You do this in September, or you do it in May, April maybe, May more likely. You've got a better chance of drawing interest from people other than people who are just there to play the game. That would be my biggest suggestion. Shift the dates, and then shift locations, and use it to try to draw people in. Because, let's be honest, you don't have enough of a fan base as things stand in the United States. Well, that's my suggestion. And like I said, take it with a dollop of salt. I'm sure there are all sorts of logistical problems to trying to do that. But it is kind of what I see as your best way of trying to use it as a way to bring more fans to the sport. Having said all that, let me tell you that if you like this, hit the subscribe button down there. If you like what you see around here generally, or interested in what you see around here generally, hit the subscribe, and I think the bell's over there, right? Or maybe it's over there. I don't know. Hit the notification bell, because I don't do these all the time. I have a job that I have to do to actually earn money. Do this as a hobby, so you want the notification to go off when I put something up, because you don't want to miss it, of course. If you want to contact me, send me a direct message on Twitter at mleaguem, or send me email at minorleaguematters@gmail.com. The blog is minorleaguematters.com. Of course, obviously, if you've seen this, this is the YouTube channel. And having said all that, shameless self-promotion, the best I can, go watch some minor league sports, or go watch some unusual sports like cricket, softball, professional softball, professional lacrosse, major league lacrosse. Go watch some of the interesting sports where people are playing because they love the sport. People are watching because they love the sport. So, having said all that, I've got just one last thing to say to y'all. Masalama, y'all.